like to draw your attention to a case I think is particularly shocking. This is particularly for British viewers, but of course it's open for anyone around the world. Basically, this is a human rights issue that's taken place right here in the UK, and I never thought I'd have to make this sort of video, but I can't go to sleep without saying something. I'd like to draw your attention to someone called Tim Harris. He's a 41-year-old man from Doncaster, and he's a Fathers for Justice campaigner. Now, recently he got jailed for 6 months for defacing a portrait of the Queen. This was after numerous attempts to try and gain access to his two young daughters, 13 and 10, and his long struggle against the very unjust family court system. Now, I'm not a member of Fathers for Justice. I'm not a father myself, but I'm pretty sympathetic to a lot of their campaigns. And there's a few things I'd like to point out about this case. Number one, even if you don't agree with the approach that he used, I mean, he was guilty of what he done. He did vandalise this portrait. It was a £5,000 portrait. To sentence a man to a custodial sentence for that is an absolute abomination. Jail, in my opinion, should be for thugs who terrorise society, paedophiles, arsonists, rapists, dangerous criminals, not for an act of vandalism on a portrait of the monarch. It's not something that's this is a victimless crime, except maybe the artist who painted it. I mean, if there's going to be any sort of punishment, okay, make him pay a fine or something, but you have to, even if you don't look at someone made a good point, even if you don't look at the context in which this was done, let's just say it was someone who got drunk and they decided to vandalise it, I would still argue that jail is too excessive. But when you look at the context in which this was done, this was a desperate man who was going through emotional pain, who's tried every other approach. This is a cry out for help. This is someone who is trying his level best to ask for basic human rights as a father to see his daughters. And we have a stinking system in this country in terms of fathers' rights, in terms of very corrupt family courts. So even if you don't entirely agree with Fathers for Justice and what they campaign for, at least consider the situation here. This is a man who's been sentenced to 6 months behind bars, and by the way, he's on hunger strike. He's a political prisoner as far as I'm concerned. I agree with the campaign to have him freed. He is a political prisoner. He's on hunger strike, and just because he vandalised a portrait out of desperation. He hasn't mugged anyone, he hasn't assaulted anyone, he hasn't violently threatened anyone, he hasn't raped anyone, he hasn't committed arson. You know, he hasn't done anything that would merit, in my view, and I think in many people's view, a jail sentence. And this wasn't even an attack on, you know, a private person's property. This was a public picture of the monarch. And what troubles me about this case is, I wonder, would this have been a custodial sentence had that been a work of art that didn't depict the monarch? I mean, have we suddenly become like Thailand? Are we suddenly taking a lèse-majesté attitude whereby people are imprisoned for insulting monarchy? This is troubling. This is honestly troubling. So I ask you to look at the Facebook group Free Tim Harris. I'm sure the admin won't mind me publishing this case. I'm sure she'll accept your request to join. This is an abomination. This is happening in the United Kingdom. It's an abomination. This man should be freed without question. And the first thing I'm going to do tomorrow when I wake up is try and find petitions online to have this man freed. It's an absolute abomination. A, that he's going through the ordeal that he's going through. in terms of trying to get access to his daughters, but B, that he's now in jail in the United Kingdom for defacing a portrait. Let's be clear here. This man has not attacked anyone. He's not used violence against anyone. He's not threatened anyone. He's not raped anyone. He's not committed arson. He's not a member of a gang. He's done absolutely nothing that should merit time in prison. 6 months behind bars. And you may not think 6 months is very long, but in prison, that's a long time. So check out the Facebook group, Free Tim Harris. Check out petitions. It's just a disgrace. It's an utter disgrace. If you can, please put pressure on his local MP. I'll see if I can find a reference for that. Just checking it now on the group. No, I can't find a reference, but just check out the group. I'm shocked. I really am. This is staggering. You know, even if you don't agree with Fathers for Justice, you should at least be able to see why this is just an abomination. That a man is sentenced to 6 months behind bars simply for trying to see his daughters. It's perverse, quite frankly.